everybody, and welcome back to the Star Wars Expanded Universe, narrated by Disney, or Lucasfilm, whichever way you slice it. Legends. I have a whole lot of Marvel comics for you today. A lot, actually. But before we get to the Marvel comics, I want to go to the classic Star Wars. The ones that were recolored, were originally black and white, were part of newspaper strips, but they were compiled and collected and put color into it. Classic Star Wars, issues 7 to 10, finishing off that whole thing. Tales of the Jedi. I don't know why I said that, so I'm going to ignore it. Vader hears Skywalker. This is important because I think this is the first time that Vader has had a suspicion that the person that blew up the Death Star was Force sensitive. But after the events in this comic, it's pretty much confirmed by him. So now his next question is, who is it? However, what's also cool about these comics is we get an actor, which is very similar to the Hand of Thrawn duology, where we have somebody pretending to be Thrawn but isn't actually. We have somebody who had facial surgery to look like Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ben Skywalker. And he actually has a phenomenal arc in that series, or in those issues that he's in, going from trying to betray this kid, Luke Skywalker, because Vader wants him, to giving up his life for him. That's a little bit of a spoiler, I guess, but it's really good, and I really enjoyed that. Classic Marvel issues 16 to 17, we get introduced to a character named Valance, who is a cyborg bounty hunter who despises droids. Is that not intriguing to you? He goes and tries to kill Luke Skywalker, but he doesn't find Luke Skywalker. He finds somebody from a previous issue who kind of looked like Luke Skywalker and helped Han in a mission. That was the one with Jackson. And Jackson even returns to try to help the kid, and Valance is not successful. So he goes looking for the real Luke Skywalker, basically. But yeah, that's classic Marvel 16 to 17. But I really gotta say, before moving forward and getting pretty much just all into the Marvel comics, that classic Marvel series, I guess I didn't talk about it too much, but it is so good. It is so good, and I highly recommend those. We'll be back. We have Star Wars Kids, issues 1 to 10. These were magazines. I don't have much to say because I couldn't get access to them. However, I will leave a link in the description to Matt Wilkins' video if you are curious about the Star Wars Kids magazines. Now, I have nothing to say. This is just where it's placed chronologically, so I'm letting you know about it. But I don't know that much about it. Alright, moving forward. Marvel issues 18 to 34. Yes, we're going to a sizable portion of it. Issue 18, we get introduced to the Wheel, which is a pretty famous location because of these comics. It gets referenced here and there. Also, if you end up reading Quality Autism, little insert promotion here, his fanfiction in the future when it's fully translated, maybe the Wheel makes an appearance. Who knows? Maybe he plans on adding it to something else. Who knows? Gotta read to find out. The robot in here, the new robot that's part of the Wheel, he's pretty alright robot. I think he's pretty interesting. What I like is that we don't really have any stories with him, but we do know from, I think it's an RPG book, that this robot in these issues would still be around by the time of New Jedi Order, and is actually defending the Wheel from the Yusong Ball. So I just thought that was a cool little connection. The wheel itself is just like this big, like, gambling place that's supposed to be, like, independent from the Empire, or, like, it's a neutral location. Yeah. Issue 23. Luke and Leia kiss. That's going to happen a few times. Not touching it. I also think issue 23 is when everything with the wheel gets concluded, I believe. Unless I'm forgetting. But, ew. Then, switching over to Star Wars Empire real quick with issue 7, we have a nice little story involving Boba Fett. Boba Fett is not the main character of the story, even though he's on the cover, but it is a pretty decent story with him. Jumping over to Marvel issue 25, we introduced to the House of Tag, which is like this family that's connected with the Empire. And the main one, Baron Tag, wants to gain favor with the Empire by capturing Luke Skywalker because he wants revenge on Darth Vader for making him blind, I guess, because he uses cybernetics to see. So he wants to gain favor with the Emperor, then challenge Darth Vader to a duel if he somehow thinks he's going to win, and get revenge for stealing his eyes. He's a decent little fun villain. Issue 20. That's pretty much issues 25 to 26. It's kind of like back-to-back story. Issue 27, though, we get reintroduced to Valens, the cyborg bounty hunter who hates all droids. And he's finally found Luke Skywalker and C-3PO and tries to kill him. However, C-3PO, like, pours out his love for Luke, I guess, or is willing to sacrifice himself, and Valens has a change of heart and lets them go. Issue 28. Jabba the Hutt, ? With one T. Here's the thing about these comics, too, that we have to remember. These were coming out, in between the years of the movies. Like, Episode 4 came out, I believe these comics were coming out, and they kept coming out up until Episode 5 came out, and then they kept making stuff up until Episode 6, and then after. Okay? So, they didn't know that, at this point anyway, that Vader was Luke's father. They didn't know, as I can clearly tell because there's a lot of kissing with Luke and Leia, that nobody knew. That, not even George himself probably, that Luke and Leia were going to be siblings. Nobody knew that till Episode 6. So there's a lot of things in here that people didn't know about, and I think people forget special editions include Jabba in Episode 4, but there was no Jabba until Episode 6. Jabba didn't show up. Jabba in Episode 6 was the first time we got to see that character. But originally, George wasn't going to do anything with that character. He just needed a reason for why Han was low on money and why he needed to be eager to help the heroes. Only later did he decide, I'm going to actually do something with Jabba. So he kind of just said, yeah, go do whatever with Jabba, I'm not going to use him. So they include a guy who is going to be in Episode 6. He's like in the background in the hut, in his little palace. And there's really no way to reconcile this. This arc was meant to, like, clear Han's debt. And so this guy who calls himself Jabba wants the money from Han, and Han's gonna get out of it, right? I don't know how you fix that. I mean, Matt Wilkins has said, like, maybe it's like I Am Negan, where everybody just kind of calls themselves Jabba. That works for him, but this is like the only example we have of that. And you would think with Han's personality that he would not show the guy respect by calling him Jabba, like he would call him by his real name or whatever, but he doesn't. Han treats him as if he is actually Jabba. It's also spelled with one T because George Lucas didn't definitely decide, oh, it's with two T's till later. So it's just most of and this is the confusing thing about the Marvel comics, because of future stories like with Luminia and Legacy of the Force. Most of it, not all of it, most of the Marvel comics from the 70s to 80s have been jumped up to C canon. But there's a lot of stuff there that's still kind of just C canon, or sorry, S canon, where you can take it or leave it. So this is one. It could have been fixed maybe with a story in the future, but I don't think we ever really got one. So as of right now, that is kind of a glaring issue, not necessarily a contradiction. You can make excuses, make it fit, but it is a really weird one. It's an okay comic, but it's just a lot of continuity, weird things there. So I'm going to say this one, issue 28, definitively. I could say the other ones fit fairly well, despite how, silly they are. I'm going to say issue 28 is pretty heavy S tier. Like, we just don't know. Take it or leave it if you want. Then we get to issue 29, Dark Encounter. This one's kind of awesome. I'm not going to lie. This is Valance versus Vader. Valance knows Luke Skywalker's name. Vader, for some time, has been trying to figure out the name of the boy who blew up the Death Star. And there's another rebel, not a rebel spy, but like a guy who knows stuff that the rebels are trying to get information from, and he's trying to get to the highest bidder, I think. And Valance is trying to kill him because he doesn't want that information getting to Vader. And so he fights Vader, loses pretty quickly, but has this whole speech about, like, even if I delay you one more day, that's one more day for the kid to get stronger and beat you. And the guy that he was trying to kill overhears this, gets inspired by Valance, and chucks himself in the lava, killing himself, so that Vader can't get the information. Vader even says, why? Like, I could use you, you're powerful. I could use you as like an enforcer somewhere. But then also, he's gonna get the information eventually. Like, he knows that. Like, he's like, you can stop me today, I'm still gonna get it. Tomorrow, a week from now, eventually I'll have this information. You can't keep it from me forever. But one more day. So he goes in search of the information he was searching for, giving one more day to Luke Skywalker. Issue 30, Leia is cool. I don't really have anything else to say. It's a Leia-centric comic. She does cool things by herself because she's independent, but they don't shove it down your throat. So it's all right. Issues 31 to 34 basically are one big story arc. But issue 31, Luke goes back to Tatooine. You get to see Fixer and Cammy, who were only ever, like, I don't even know if they were mentioned in the movie, but yeah, he had friends, which were Biggs, who died during Death Star run. Cammy, Fixer, and I think there's somebody else that I'm not thinking about at the moment, but Cammy and Fixer are there, so that's kind of cool. He meets back up with Han. They mention issue 28, which is, again, a glaring continuity mess, so just kind of ignore their little mention there. It's even contradictory with Scoundrels, which we'll be getting to, which is Han trying to get money to make up his debt. Even though that's also continuity error with Hasty Crispin's, because it kind of pisses on her work, on her hard work, might I add. I'm still salty. I haven't even read it yet. The premise, it pisses me off. We get Luke versus the Baron, which is kind of fun. This reminded me of like a anime sort of thing, because like Luke is like kind of learning stuff right now, but he doesn't have Yoda yet, so he's just kind of like fumbling around, like kind of picking up some things, trusting in the Force, being he's okay with the lightsaber, never hold a candle to Darth Vader, but with a normal guy without the Force, he holds his own, which is good. because the reason I said like anime is because like for Dragon Ball, you know, Goku's super powered, but he fights like normal people, and then he fights people that are a little bit more powerful, but like it's a build up. And that's what it kind of felt like here. You have like, here's your non-powered person, but is skilled with a lightsaber. So you got to overcome that, and he did. So I thought that was kind of fun. And then Leia kisses Han for like the 5th time now. That's another thing. Look, she kisses them a lot. Like it's happened quite a few times already. I'm like, but why? Like she kisses Han quite a few times. She kisses Luke quite a few times, which is just ill. But you know, it just makes her seem kind of whorish. I mean, maybe that's a strong word, but she's just kissing them. But it's fairly often. Like not every comic, but it happens enough times where I'm noticing a pattern, and it's like I don't know. I don't approve of this for Leia. But yeah, so this whole thing gets resolved. They get away from the House of Tag, but the House of Tag are not gone yet. They'll have their revenge, I'm sure, down the line. But that's pretty much the end of them. Oh, there's also this freeze ray that the House of Tag is trying to make because they probably gave a reason, but I didn't care enough. It's okay. They destroy it. They get rid of it. Coolio. But yeah, that's about that. Went through a lot of comics fairly quickly. But again, I'm having way more fun with them than I ever expected to. And Valance, what a Chad. Wish we got more with him. I could have done with just Valen comics just on his own. I think he is really cool. He's like the Terminator, but a bounty hunter. And they only used him like a couple times. But I guess it's harder to ruin a character that you only use a couple times. Same goes with Thrawn. That's why he only has his trilogy. Yeah, overall, enjoyed it. Up next, we have 2 children's books. The Star Wars Science Adventures that were by Scholastic, by Jude Watson. We know Jude Watson. A short story and a comic. That's pretty much it. And then after that, well, we have what I've been dreading get into, which is Timothy Zahn's Scoundrels. I'll talk about that more when we get to it. And thank you all so much for watching. Until next time, may the Force be with you. Starting with going back to Tales from Mos Eisley, Dr. Death by Kevin C. Flint, who is the author of Heart of the Jedi. This one is about Dr. Evazan, of course. You know, I don't like you either, from episode 4. It's a fun one. Let's just say that our pig-faced looking, deformed serial killer is looking for something that Palpatine also yearns for. I'll leave it at that. It is a very fun, very twisted little ride. And I, without spoilers, because it is a short story, I do highly recommend. Moving on, we have Star Wars Science Adventures, books 1 and 2, by Jude Watson and somebody else. I forgot to write it down, and I don't care enough about the series to look it up. Here is a young adult children's story by Scholastic about science, but in Star Wars. So, the Rebel Alliance sends 3 droids to protect a young boy because he's important to one place or whatever. And they explain it well enough. And along the way on their journey, through their adventure, there's a lot of science talked about, a lot of things in the real world applicable, with some sci-fi jargon to work within the confines of this two-book series. And the first one, they're on a ship, and they end up crash landing by the end of it, leading into the events of the second book. But yeah, you have a lot of instances where in the middle of the story, you'll have the new droid be like, it's time for me to talk about this fact or this fact. And then in the back of the books have a bunch of like science experiments for you to do and all this stuff. And it's book 2, they're on the planet. They're running away from things using science to get through the day. And it ends on a cliffhanger. And we don't know what happens to our great droid friends. Who cares? But this is one of the rarer pieces of the EU. In fact, I'm sure those of you who are not fans of Matt Wilkins, a good portion of you aren't even going to realize that this was a thing. But yeah, Scholastic did a lot of stuff like that. And this was one of them. And it is... it exists. Would I tell you to go out and search for this and spend your hard-earned money? If you're a big collector, sure. If you just want the EU story, you can absolutely leave this and miss absolutely nothing. It connects to nothing and ultimately is nothing. But I can't be too harsh on it because it was meant for children. It wasn't marketed as this high-end piece of literature. It was marketed as a learning book for kids to learn more about science through a fun adventure with their favorite droid friends from Star Wars. So, it is what it is. It's fine for what it is. There's no conclusion. Rest assured, R2D2 and C3PO have been through a lot. So I'm sure every single person there got through the situation. Okay. Moving on. Star Wars Missions 9 to 12. I tried desperately to get a hold of this online somewhere because I did not have the money to just spend on it right now for shipping and paying for it and all that. I didn't have the money for it. But, so I don't have anything to say about it. But Star Wars Missions, books 9 to 12, would happen around here. I'll leave a link in the description to Matt Wilkins' video on the matter. I think he talked about this anyway, so you can get a little bit more in depth from somebody who knows what they're talking about. But I wanted to include it in chronological order. This is, if you have it, this is where you read it. Going to the Galaxy Guide #1, this one paragraph. Crossing the Dark Lord. Vader vows to himself. He's kind of talking out loud, swearing an oath to go find the rebels, especially that young boy and all that, right? And there's a Imperial officer that's kind of snickering about his talking to himself or whatever. And so Vader just kills him. That's the story. It's what you would expect from a paragraph. And here's something that I don't think chronologically takes place here, but I don't think it's canon anyway, so I'm just going to get out of the way so I never have to talk about it again, though if you do want to check it out, you might as well just check it out here because it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of the EU. In fact, canon fans, go ahead and just take that. Hell, even steal ideas from that for canon. Brian Wood, Star Wars. Art's fine, especially the covers. They have some good covers. That's it. If you don't read the EU as in depth as I'm doing or as other people have done, you might enjoy these. You start reading the EU, you start being anywhere deep dived into it, and you realize how much unoriginality there is in a time frame where there's so much going on and it can't be original. Heck, there's some things just blatantly like copied and pasted from X-Wing. It does not deserve further discussion. So I'll leave you with a special video at the end in dedication to Brian Wood's Star Wars comics. Thank you all so much for watching. I know this is a rather short one, but didn't have too much to say. The next video should be a lot longer. This has to do with scoundrels from Star Wars. From Timothy Zahn. But thank you all for bearing this with me. Thank you all for being here with me. And enjoy this special message, all in honor of Brian Wood's Star Wars. Till next time, guys. May the Force be with you. And may it guide me and give you strength after reading Scoundrels.